Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. I am here, as always, with Mr. Ryan Nelson. I am Aaron, for all those who didn't know that, or you can call me Haas if you listened to last episode. We kind of touched on that. Ryan, how is the day going for you, my man?
My day is good. Yeah, no complaints today. How about yours?
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Any day when you can't complain is a good day in my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't really. I mean, I kind of can normally find something to complain about. But today, nope, not a single one. So it's the greatest day in the world. But no, we're just excited. I'm excited to bring you. We're excited to bring you guys some content here for some financial education. Please check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, share. Really helps everybody out here. And we couldn't do this without you, and appreciate it, listeners. So, Ryan, let's dive in. We are in an episode. It's about investing on your own. I just think it's a really catchy title. I'm going to say it now too. Tap, invest, repeat: the pros and cons of app-based investing. So,
nice.
Everybody probably knows we live in a pretty digital age these days. There's instructional videos on the internet, detailing DIY stuff. Do it yourself. You can do all these things, and I feel like I've had hit or miss experience with those. Like, I was able to fix a leaky faucet, which was great. One of the times I was able to put up, fix my sprinklers one time, and then I did this like curtain hanging technique that just went completely terrible at the same time, and I ended up having to just. Didn't work. So I think it's hit or miss with that. And so I see these things that come up with, invest on your own. These apps will do it for you, set it, forget it kind of thing. So I'm curious to see what your thought process on that is, and what, I guess, pros, cons, things to look out for when it comes to those advertisements for those things.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, we live in a DIY world for sure.
Yeah, we do.
YouTube, TikTok, it can teach us, like you said, how to fix your sprinklers and how to patch your drywall. And the same is true for investing. So we do have a bunch of apps out there that help with investing. Mm-hmm. So some of them are like New Retirement, Betterment, Wealthfront, and they all have like automated kind of robo-advisors with algorithms that help like rebalance portfolios and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you got your traditional firms like your Fidelities, your Vanguards, your Charles Schwabs, which have options for you to go in and like pick your own stocks and kind of build your own portfolio based on what you think is going to basically fulfill your goals.
Sure.
And I think I've used this analogy. I've probably used this analogy on the podcast. I've used this analogy a lot, which is funny because the analogy is not a good analogy. And I feel like I've used it all. For how much I've used it, I should have come up with a better analogy by now. But as the analogy goes, I say that like financial planning firms are like hamburger joints. So there's McDonald's, there's like local, so if you're here local, there's like the Awful.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then there's also like steakhouses, right? And so you could go to McDonald's and get a hamburger for 99 cents probably, or go to Juicy's or go to the Awful and get like an $8 hamburger, or go to a steakhouse and probably find a $50 hamburger, right? And it's not that one of those hamburgers are good or one of those hamburgers is bad. Like if you're talking to a different demographic of people, different people are going to gravitate towards different hamburgers, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're talking to a college kid and you're like, no, why would you ever eat a McDonald's hamburger? Like that stuff is trash. You have to eat this steakhouse hamburger. It's the college kids. It's not going to resonate. They're going to say like that. I can't afford a $50 hamburger. I could get $50 from McDonald's and pay myself, feed myself for weeks.
Sure.
And on the flip side, you talk to somebody else who has the wealth and enjoys an experience and likes to go out to a nice dinner and likes to have their water refilled and likes to have a nice beverage. And you say, oh, the 99-cent hamburger is better. How could you ever justify paying 50x that for a single hamburger? It's like they're trying to solve for something else in their life, right? Mm-hmm. They value something different. And so it all comes back to our different values. And there's going to be different people out there who are best served by a McDonald's hamburger, different people out there who are best served by a Juicy's or an Awful hamburger, and some other people out there who are best served by a hamburger from Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that any of them are good or any of them are bad. It's just that they're different and they're servicing different demographic of people. And
I honestly think that's a pretty good analogy. I mean,
Hey,
I don't know if I've heard it. I feel like it
so maybe it's not
resonated.
Yeah.
Not bad. Like
Okay.
as a big food guy myself,
Sure.
I hit home and I'm kind of hungry.
There you go. So with financial advisors, it's kind of the same thing, right? Is I don't think there's any financial advisor out there who could be all things to all people. And so, it's like when we talk about these do-it-yourself platforms, they are a good tool for some people. They are not going to be a solution for every single investor out there, but they are going to be a good solution for some investors, right? So let's talk about the pros of some of these investing apps or do-it-yourself platforms. So they're accessible. So a lot of them, they pride themselves on having like low minimums. So maybe you can start investing with just $5. Hey, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of advisors out there who won't let you start investing unless you have $500,000. Well, if you have $20, that's, you need somewhere else to start. This would be a good place to start, right? Also, a lot of them are lower cost, right? It's just a technology solution. There's maybe no people behind the scenes looking at your exact scenario, helping determine the specifics or when you should do certain decisions, right? And so you may get a little less support, but the costs are also lower. So, hey, that could be a great positive for you. There's some cool automated features. You can automate some things with dividend reinvestment and like tax loss harvesting and stuff. That's kind of been commoditized over the years now. There's some decent like transparency there. So it's some cool dashboards. You can see kind of how your performances do or how your portfolio is performing over time. And I think it can be empowering. So it can make you feel like it can help you. It can set you on the track of like getting comfortable with investing, gaining and building financial literacy. And one of the things I like preach in the book, Your Fiscal Physical, it's about how this financial education can pay like long-term dividends, right? And building that foundation early is very valuable. So these are great tools to help start build that financial foundation. And is it, if you start investing with $100 and these tools are accessible to do that, and you make a mistake that costs you 10%, well, with $100, that mistake just costs you $10. Sure. Not the end of the world, right? Now, if if one of the clients I'm working with that has $10 million makes a 10% mistake, that's $1 million mistake. The stakes are much, much higher, right? But these are great entry level where if it's a way where you can start to gain that education, that financial literacy where the stakes are lower. And if you make a mistake, hey, it's probably not the end of the world. And the sort of education or the value you're getting from learning is probably more valuable than the maybe financial mistakes you'd be making along the way. So I think they're super cool at kind of building that financial literacy. Cool. So now there are some cons, like with everything, there's pros and cons, right? So there are some cons and pitfalls of sort of do-it-yourself investing, if you will. So I think there's a huge risk of overconfidence. These apps can give you this false sense of simplicity. So you could potentially buy or sell with a single click of a button, and Robinhood kind of got in some trouble for this a while back about gamifying the app and trying it almost turning into a game and like gambling. And to some degree, you're making the economy as a whole is a very complicated system. And it is possible for it to almost get dumbed down into this thing that's way oversimplified, and you don't understand anymore what you're doing, right?
Right.
So I think there's a risk of overconfidence for sure. There's also some behavioral pitfalls. So emotions are a huge part of investing, and statistically, if you go look, like everybody knows you want to buy low, sell high. That's how you make money. If you go look at cash inflows and outflows, statistically speaking, most people end up buying high and selling low. The exact opposite of what they want to do. The explanation there is their emotions come into play. And so if there's not a barrier between, if there's no friction there between your emotions and your actions, then it's really easy to get scared. Boom, sell. right? There's just no friction at all. So sometimes having a little added friction there is actually a good thing. You might know, yeah, it's easy for me to get spooked and want to sell, but when I'm calm in a rational state of mind, I don't want to be selling every time I get spooked, right? Whereas hiring a financial advisor, there's a little more friction. The advisor is going to be actively recommending, hey, let's not do this. Let's take a deep breath. Let's think about it this way, right? And so if you're one of those people who says, yeah, I like the idea of having a little more friction in there and somebody coaching me through this could be a great solution, right? It would almost be like if you struggle with eating junk food, would it be the wisest decision to go buy a bunch of junk food and put it on your counter? You can.
Yeah.
Just because you can do something,
Right.
like now every single time you walk by your counter, you have to have that self-discipline. If you're a do-it-yourself investor, every single time you have your phone in front of you, which is what, like 8 hours a day or something on average, you're staring at your phone, you're having to actively make disciplined decisions not to place a sell order or a buy order. Whereas if you outsource this to somebody else is doing your grocery shopping in this theoretical example, they're not buying you junk food. It's a lot easier not to eat junk food when it's not in the house, right?
Oh, so, totally. No, that's a great way to put it. I think about it for like myself, and obviously everybody's situation is different. I rarely ever check like my financial portfolio with Alchemy. Like it's
Sure.
like once, like a couple times a year when we meet or whatever, I'm like, oh shoot, I should probably log in and check this.
Yeah.
Like at some point, or when I'm paying taxes or whatever. But I also like that. I could probably get like the Charles Schwab app or whatever and like look at my like really track things or whatever and like all these different or just pull it up and be ready to go. But I'm the kind of person, I'm like, I got enough stress in my life.
Sure.
Like, like I'm not trying to also like, oh my gosh, like so I get an alert that something has dropped or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have access to like look at it and make that potentially irrational decision on doing something versus like calling somebody and being like, now I'm like, hey, Ryan, like, do you think this is a good idea? What should we do in this situation? And as it is your full-time job, you'll probably have that ability to steer me in the right direction and be like, no, I'm on top of this. This is what I do. Because if you're doing your own investing, you might be covering this later. I don't know if that's your full-time job. And it's pretty, you kind of need to have a really, like, you need to be really literate about that in order to do it in a way that, maybe is the best for all parties. So I think about it for myself. That's my perspective on it. I'm like, hey, cool. Like, these are great. I think this is really cool that this is out there. I think about like 15 years ago, something like that. It was hard to even just like trade stocks like by yourself, kind of thing. And so I think this is neat that it's out there, but I 100%. Also think that I'm glad that we're covering some of the common pitfalls that like maybe aren't thought about right up front with it. Yeah,
I think these are really cool. I think it's like progresses the whole industry forward. So I think these as a whole are a net positive to like society and stuff. And I think a lot of the pros are really good, but like you said, there are cons. And sometimes people don't always think of the cons, and the companies selling these products aren't marketing the cons.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, so it is important to, do a little due diligence there, actually realize what the cons are, know what you're getting yourself into. Like there's no personal guidance from these apps, right? There's limited context that they have. So, you might do, one of their selling point, a lot of these company selling points is like, you can have an account opened and funded in like 5 minutes. It's like, that's super, super cool.
Yeah.
It's also a bit scary to know like you're going to have an investment strategy built out in 5 minutes. Like that's not even enough time. I can't even gather my client's information in 5 minutes. Like the risk tolerance questionnaire that they're giving you is just a simplified version, right? Like everything is condensed, everything's simplified. Their whole, my interpretation of their value add is like simplicity and quickness, not accuracy and like completeness. Right. So if you value, again, going back to like the hamburger analogy, if you value getting these funds, like the account open as fast as possible and funded as fast as possible and building this out, like this is a fantastic solution. If you value like, I don't need it done today, I just need it done as right as possible, you might want to take a step back and actually work with somebody that doesn't like their value prop isn't we do this as fast as possible.
Sure. Yep.
And then, I think that there's actually there's actually a way to overcomplicate this. Even though like their value prop is simplification and they're trying to create these like again, I was mentioning how one of the benefits of these companies is how they like streamline everything, and right. One of the risks is overcomplication. So it can be a little overwhelming, and I'll see clients come in and they'll have like 3 or 4 of these different products, all with a little bit of money in each. There's no comprehensive strategy between them all. They just, there was a bunch of these tactical decisions like, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I heard this thing on the news, or I saw this commercial during the Super Bowl. I'm going to try this. And they put $2,000 into this and then $3,000 into this. And, and so there's no comprehensive strategy for their finances. Right. They just overcomplicated it by trying to do the right thing, but getting their hands into a little bit of everything, if that makes sense. So just another risk. But again, I think overall, my 2 cents is overall, I think these like do-it-yourself solutions and these apps are a net positive for like the industry as a whole, and it drives everything forward. And I do think they're a really good solution for a percentage of the population. I also, though, think there's a percentage of the population who shouldn't be using this.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just really kind of figuring out, cool, what are my values? Does it align more with the value or with the pros here, or more with the cons? If it's with the pros, cool, jump on this. It's pretty cool. Some pretty, do your due diligence first, but then maybe explore this, and it could be some pretty cool benefits. Yeah. Or you might be in the other boat where you say, this doesn't make sense for where I'm at in my life. So let's just dive in. Let's pretend you go through this. You say, yeah, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. Let's go over a couple of like tips, I guess, if you will, if you're going to go down that rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
So make sure you're educating yourself on like asset allocation, diversification, time value of money. Those are things that we talk about on this podcast. It's a free resource. There's lots of other podcasts out there, free resources. There's YouTube videos, free resources. Now it can be a little overwhelming. Which podcast do you listen to? Which YouTube episodes do you watch, right? So it can be overwhelming, but you need to do the due diligence of educating yourself. If you're gonna manage your own finances, which is perfect, you need to treat it like that.
Absolutely.
And educate yourself. My 2 cents would be avoid timing the market. So I love the saying, it's time in the market, not timing of the market. So don't try to get too cutesy and say, I'm going to buy right now. I'm getting really strategic, like the market's about to go up or it's about to go down, so I'm going to wait. That's been proven to be a fool's errand. It's highly unlikely that you have some timing prowess that the rest of the world doesn't have. Yeah. So again, try not to get too cute with this. Check the fees carefully. I have seen some instances where people think they're getting into some really low cost efficient funds, only to find out that there are more expenses than they actually thought, and they could have maybe for equivalent costs been getting a far more robust, complete service. So just be very cautious. Make sure you do your due diligence with the fees. Make sure you're setting goals. You should have like, what is your time horizon for this money? Are you putting money in and you're trying to save it up for your kids' college? Are you trying to save for a vacation in 2 years? Are you saving for retirement? All that money should be invested differently. Make sure that when you're investing the money, you have those goals in mind, and whatever automated system is taking place, that it's taking into account those goals. Because your money should be invested differently if you're planning for a vacation in 2 years versus a kid's retirement or a kid's education in 15 years versus retirement in 10 years, 20 years or whatever, right? So make sure you have your goals on the front end. So as you go through this process, you can evaluate and make sure that it is indeed aligning with those set goals. And then even if you're using like a robo-advisor, you still want to be reviewing it annually, making sure it's it's kind of evolving with you. So as your goals evolve, you should want to make sure that this tool is evolving with you as well. And then, you might be asking, so when should I consider like not using an app and using professionals, right? So I'd say, there's some research. I think we talked a little bit about it on this podcast. I think we might have mentioned in my book as well. There's some research out there from these big companies, the Fidelities, the Vanguards, and they claim financial advisors can add like 3 to 5% in value. I always hate throwing out actual numbers like that. So I'd say go do your due diligence. Go Google value of a financial advisor. Figure out what research papers you trust and right, resonate with you. But you'll find that there's probably some value there, right? And most of that is behavioral coaching, something that an app is not going to be the most robust at helping with, right? So time to seek help would be if you have large life changes, if you're selling a business, planning for charitable giving, if you have complex tax situations, if you just straight up want peace of mind, right? Yeah. And so what I always say to everybody is not everybody needs a financial advisor, But again, you need to manage your own finances, right? Not everybody needs a financial advisor. But if you don't want to manage your own finances, you should delegate it to somebody else. Some of the things I look for is if you don't have the time to do it yourself, if you don't have the desire to do it yourself, or if you don't have the knowledge to do it yourself. So doing it yourself is completely appropriate. It's a completely appropriate solution. But if you don't have any one of those, if you're like, hey, I get it, I could do this myself, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
That's fair. You don't have to. Go hire somebody. You know, if you're like, I could do this myself, I just don't have the knowledge now and it's going to take me too much time to learn it, I'm going to go hire somebody. Completely fair. Or if you're like, hey, I've been managing maybe I completely know how to do this. I've been doing it myself for the last 20 years. I just don't have the time anymore. I prefer to spend my time on either my business or my family or whatever. Good time to delegate, right? So, you know, if at any reason you just find you don't have the time, the desire, the knowledge to do it yourself, don't feel like you have to do it yourself. There's professionals out there and they're happy to take it off your plate. So those would be sort of some of the triggers where you could say, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense for me to do the do-it-yourself thing and I'll go hire somebody.
Yeah, and I think that the piece that you hit on, this was really good there, is you mentioned like still review it annually. Honestly, I feel like you can have life events that happen sometimes weekly or monthly with these certain things. So, you know, with an app or something like that, you know, maybe you set it up in 5 minutes, send out a questionnaire, like, cool, awesome. How often do I get to retake that questionnaire, I suppose? Like something to think about. Like I know that with you as my financial advisor at Alchemy Wealth, like I can just schedule a meeting and be like, hey, like we've had a life event.
Sure.
How do we adjust to these certain things? And there is that a human touch to it, which I still kind of enjoy.
Yeah, sure.
It's like,
I like it too.
So I like it when like I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm all for like, you know, if I can just call an automated system and get a new debit card if something gets stolen, awesome. I love that too.
Yeah.
But I also like enjoy when I can have the peace of mind of talking to somebody that I'm like, cool, you know what's going on. Now you're aware of this. My risk tolerance has maybe gone way down. How can we switch that over and ensure that everything's in the right place too? Yep. So I think that that's a big piece of it of like, what's good. I think they're really cool, these apps. Make sure you what are your goals with them, and revisiting those goals quite a bit, I think is important for sure. So
absolutely.
And I have this, I'd be remiss, my wife has been talking about this when she's been plugging me with it. It's an app called Autopilot.
Okay.
I'm just curious if you've ever heard of it. It's an investment app that like tracks what politicians invest in, and like it provides you like with that information of what their investment strategies are, and you can like mirror those politicians, because you always hear that in the news like, oh, this individual, you know, sold a ton of stock before it like went down or whatever. And like it is just one, it's called Autopilot. And so I was just curious, have you ever heard of it? You know, if you haven't, that's fine. But
no, never heard of it. I mean, I'll tell you, my first instinct with anything like this is a great deal of skepticism.
Yes, as is mine. Like my wife's like, you gotta see, and I did a little bit of I went to my trusted source of Reddit, and I went and looked at some of this stuff, and like it was like, this is a scam, but it has pretty good ratings, like the app, but I think there's limitations with anything with that. But it was just when I was like, oh, I'm curious what Ryan would think about that, because I guess it was founded because someone is like, how are these politicians making so much like money off of the stock market, and I'm, you know, I can invest with them if I wanted to, but obviously limitations, drawbacks with any of those things. But I was just curious.
Never heard of it, but I would approach it like I do most other things in this industry, with a great deal of skepticism.
Skepticism.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you so much as always. Anything else before we wrap up and move on to the personal section?
No, let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Everybody hang tight.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
All right, Ryan, since we are on the subject of apps today in the personal section of the Fiscal Physical podcast, we are going to talk about what's your favorite app that you have on your phone right now. As I've said this, I wonder if we've actually talked about this previously, because I just said that out loud, and I feel like maybe we covered this on a previous one. But since it's part of the topic, if it's a repeat, somebody knows that, Awesome. Good for you guys. Let me know what episode it was. But curious to see what's your favorite app on your phone that you currently have right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, I just pulled up my screen time on my phone so I can see what my most used apps are. That's not necessarily my favorite, I suppose. Yeah. But I'm using a lot of iMessage, email, of course. That's mostly work-related, Safari. Getting into more of the fun ones. I got the Colonist app, which is Catan.
Nice,
I think I mentioned in one of you asked a personal question around board games. I said I play that like every day on my phone.
Nice.
So yeah, that's up there. I have macro factors right underneath that. That's I use it. It's a calorie tracking app, so it tracks calories and macronutrients. And so that's up there. And then Audible and my podcast app. So those are probably my 4 like fun apps I use the most. So yeah, my Catan for games, Macro Tractor for tracking my calories and macronutrients, and then I listen to a lot of podcasts and books, so Audible and Apple Podcasts. What about you?
I like it. Yeah, I same way. My iMessage and my email are definitely the two biggest ones that I have on my phone. But as far as fun ones here, well, funny ones, because I pulled up I was like, hey, what do we got here? And I use the weather app a ton.
Oh, really?
Like I didn't realize that I was like using it as much as that. I was like, holy smokes, like this is like one of the apps I use a lot. So I have a few different places, but I'm always checking the weather for I'm doing some trips this fall, and I was like, oh, what's the weather going to be like there? What's it now? Like, what could it be in the future? Is it going to rain? Like all these different things that so it made me sound kind of old, but also like prepared. So I use that. I use ESPN quite a bit as well. I'm a big sports guy, so I'm always checking things on ESPN. Definitely I have my the handy dandy Google Maps. I still use it quite a bit as well, just to I look at how far things are away, and it's kind of fun to look at. But that, and then Spotify is the other one too. I have quite a bit of time usage on that. So always fun to kind of dive into that. You're like, what am I actually using here?
I know.
Would you look at that? Like,
I used 1 minute of the temperature app.
Oh, nice. the weather app.
Yeah. Weather app last week. So.
Last week you're just like, cool. All right, it's gonna be hot.
Yeah.
Let's move on there. But awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. And Ryan, as always, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully you guys learned something today. I know I always do. So keep liking, subscribing. Appreciate everybody. And Ryan, I'll let you play us out.
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.